Alrighty, this is going to be a bit of an interjection because it just, while making the beginner's guide, it just occurred to me that I forgot to go over something very important. And that's actually Chun Li's her supers. Pretty much every character in the game has three different supers. The first one, of course, costs 1 meter. The second one costs two, and the third costs three. All of your meter, right? I forgot to go over. And then, of course, there's something called critical arts. Um, Critical arts is pretty much just a level 3 super, but it only occurs when you have a specific amount of health. So if we put Chun Li's health to less than 30%, you see how it made that loud sound saying zero, and then in the lower left corner, it changed from the number 3 to the letter CA. That's to let you know that you have your critical arts. So critical arts do a percentage more damage. I don't know the exact percentage at the moment, but it does more damage in order to be kind of like a rage mode or a comeback factor if you're losing. So, but I'm going to go ahead and break these down one by one. It shouldn't take too long. And then we're going to add this to the rest of the beginner's guide. So sorry if it's a little bit jarring, but I didn't want to leave this out because it is important. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at them. You have her level 1 super, the Kakosho. And the Kakosho, how you do that is I set it somewhere in the beginner and earlier in the beginner's guide, but how we're going to do it is one step at a time. It's down, down, forward. If you look at my inputs on the left side of the screen, down, 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 forward, forward, down, down, forward, forward, like that. Obviously, if you do it too slow, you're not going to do it. So it's down, down, forward, forward, down, down, forward, forward, punch. It can be either of the punch buttons, doesn't matter, light, medium, or heavy. And you do it quickly in order to get this out. And it requires exactly 1 bar of your super gauge. The purposes for this, a lot of supers in this game are invincible to certain things. So if your opponent is slamming buttons in your face and you're getting sick of them doing it, you're gonna get Ryu to be a level 8 bot here for a minute, and you're being pressured in the corner, and you don't know, and you're in a guessing situation. You don't know what the heck they're going to do, and you say, "Okay, I'm tired of guessing." Then you can mash the Kosho. Now Ryu blocked it. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you guess wrong, and your opponent guesses right, and then you stay in the corner and you lose the game. It happens. But you see that? That's invincible. I was able to completely push through what he was doing there and hit. Whereas when he's doing other things, I wouldn't be able to do it. That's one of the primary purposes for this. It's also used in combos to add more damage. So we're going to go ahead and get Ryu to stop slamming buttons for a moment. You can use it in, I'm going to show a simple combo. Actually, to make it as simple as possible, just going to do back heavy punch, heavy lightning legs into the Kakosho. It's a little tricky to do. You want to try to time the Kakosho like right at the tail end of the lightning kicks. You want to be buffering it. For those that don't know, this isn't a video about it, but buffering is when you are prepping something, so you're putting the inputs in for your special move early. So technically speaking, you can do this right after the lightning kicks are done, but there's a good chance that it will drop like that. You can still technically do it without buffering this, but since you have to do all this crap right here, as you can see, there's a very good chance that you might not get it in time. I was able to do it right there at the very after the lightning kicks were done, but it's hard. So I buffer it during the lightning kicks, so that way I can just push the punch button once the sequence is over. And you can kind of mash this. I'm not somebody to encourage mashing, but if you're having difficulty with it, you can mash and then try to refine it and become more specific later on. That way you can get a smooth motion. And actually, I'm not getting it right now because I'm not buffering it. But if it's easier for you, you can just mash it and just make sure you do the punch buttons like right when you're able to do it. If you push punch too early, obviously you can't do the punch until a specific time. It's pretty much right after she starts to right after Ryu starts to fly away from her. Is when you can push the punch button. So that's how you buffer it. It's used for damage. It's used as a get off me tool. Same thing as your reversal. But which one should you use? It depends on the situation. This is a beginner's guide, so we're not going to go too much into the details of when you want to use it. But just so that you have a little bit of knowledge on your hand, it depends. It's a judgment call for when you become more experienced at the game. Remember what we said about preserving the meter at the top right, the 6 green bars here. If your opponent is pressuring you and you only have like 1 bar left, you're putting yourself in burnout to get them off of you. If you have super gauge, it's probably a better idea to do that. No, it's almost certainly a better idea to use this as a get off me tool versus using your drive gauge, because once you go into burnout, even though you got your opponent off of you, my back is still facing the corner, and if you're fighting somebody good, they can beat you in neutral again and weasel you back into the corner, in which case if you're in the corner in burnout state, you pretty much lost the game. Now as a beginner player, not so much. People don't, when you're fighting in the beginner stages, fighting people in like platinum and below especially, but even diamond too to some extent, some people don't actually know how to get value off of what they're doing. So you'll see a lot of people in like silver and gold mashing drive impact like this randomly, and then they might just do like a heavy punch or something like that. Or they'll do this and then do something like this, right? So you don't have to worry about that too much. But if you're fighting somebody that knows what they're doing and you're in burnout, let's see if I can give you an example. Now, despite my mastery with Chun Li, I'm not going to go over the reasons why, but I have chosen to abstain from ever using drive impact for anything other than countering my opponent's drive impact. Not going to go into the reasons why exactly. But let's say we go ahead and get Ryu to run out of meter here, and let's see if we can get rid of the last bit of that. Right? Okay, so now he's in burnout. So I don't know Chun-Li's checkmate sequence, but most, if not all, characters have something that they can do that even if you block it, you're guaranteed to get pushed into that wall, and there's nothing you can do, not even use your super, right? And most characters have a very large combo that they can do. Like I said, I'm probably going to butcher any attempt at this because I have not practiced doing anything off of drive impact because I don't use drive impact. But if you're fighting somebody that knows what they're doing with this, you can take a butt ton of damage, right? And I just messed it up right there. I told you I was going to mess it up. Yeah, so I actually have, I don't know what her combo sequence would be in this. But let's go ahead and do something like that, right? Actually, let me go ahead and, I don't have the combo down, but I'm going to give you an example of what you can expect in that situation. It's not going to be quite the same, but I'm going to give you an example of what you can expect if you get caught in burnout. So we're going to put on this is not her actual burnout combo sequence, but just pretend that it is. Right. So we're going to go ahead and get Ryu to burn out here, and then we're going to push him into the wall. Right. Oh, did I not turn punish? Oh, punish counter is on. Okay, it just didn't work. Okay, so it's not going to work the way that I was hoping. So, okay, screw the burnout, right? I'm just going to do a combo. And you probably see me do this combo earlier in the guide. And we're going to drop that. Let's try it again. We're going to drop it again. Let's try it again. This is around the type of, if you look at the damage bar underneath my Chun-Li self bar there, where you see the numbers there, see how it says 6,604? That's around the type of damage you can expect to take if you get caught in that situation. Your opponent gets you in burnout, and then they do some crazy stuff like this, and then they push you into the wall. That damage that you saw there, that's the type of damage you're going to take in that situation. So back to the main point. Sorry for not being able to accurately show it, but I don't use drive impact. So one of these days, just so that I can show it to people, I'll probably learn the drive impact combo. But I don't use drive impact and have no reason to ever do so. So, but back to the main point. So if your opponent is pressuring you and you don't have a lot of drive gauge, let's go ahead and give Ryu his back. And we're going to take away ours. You got like 1 bar left. And you're like, I don't want to go into burnout because I'm fighting a master rank player right now and I don't want to get checkmated in the corner. You can do something like this instead to get them off of you, right? So that's an example of the decision making. Sometimes you'll be in a situation where you're going to, it's better to just, even if you're going to burn out, it's better to just do this than to just let them bully you. For example, if your drive gauge is all gone, like your opponent is actively pressuring you, trying to get rid of the last of it like that, go ahead and just spend it before they get rid of all of it, right? You might as well get rid of, if you're going to lose it anyway from them pressing buttons in your face, you might as well just get rid of it. So that's pretty much what that's used for. It's used for damage. It's used to add damage to your combos, and it's used to as in reversal, kind of. Now, okay, Ryu, I need you to stop doing stuff. Okay. One other thing, it loses the fireball. So if we get Ryu to do something like that, it's invincible to normal attacks, but it will lose the fireball in its startup. Once it's out, it pretty much is a giant projectile, so it will eat any fireball that comes out. But if your opponent catches you before the projectile is active, you can actually get hit by this. And this only counts for projectiles. If your opponent presses a normal button, let's say that they do something that's not a projectile, like this. It's invincible. It's only projectiles that will hit you on the startup of that. So just so that you know. The next one is, I actually don't know the name of this, strangely enough, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. So her next super art is, we have the Hayoku Sin and the Soten Ragha. She also has the aerial Kokosho as well. This is almost always used for combos though. If you do something wacky like this. It's very, very rarely used in combos in the air though. So it's, but you can do it in the air if you wanted to do it for some reason. Right? But, okay, so we're going to go into the Hayoku Sen, which is, it's the same type of input as the Kokosho. Just down, down, forward, forward, down, forward, forward, except you push any one of the kick buttons instead. So instead of punch, you push kick. And what this is this is a utility super, which obviously, as you can see, after you do the super, it launches them into the air so you can keep doing more stuff. I'm not going to go too much into the combos and stuff like that here. That's not going to be important for here. But the primary purpose of this is you can use it in certain combos in order to set your opponent up. This pretty much gets them straight to the corner from the middle of the screen. If I can stop dropping it, that is. Apologies. Right. And then they're in the corner now. So I get them into the corner, and it's useful for very specific setups and just to add more damage to your combo. So if I do it off of a combo, let's see what type of combo I would want to do with this. You can do it off of a lot of different things, but let's say, for example, I wanted to do it off of something like this. Right. And I actually dropped that second punch there by accident. You could do it off of something. You could do it off of something simple like this. Right. You can use it off of her EX legs. I'm sorry, OD legs. So used to Street Fighter 4 lingo. Apologies. OD legs in this game. Unfortunately, you can't get it off of this because it's gonna drop. Right? You can do some stuff in the air. That's not what I asked you to do, my dear. I'm actually gonna drop this, but there are combos you can do. It's used for combos, right? You get more damage, but it's mainly utility because it gives you setup. That's why it costs 2 instead of 1. It can, like I say, it can be useful to get your opponent into specific positions that will make life difficult for them, like getting them to the corner. But it can also be used for if your opponent wants to be an ass with projectiles like this. And you catch them, like let's say you know that they have a rhythm and you know that they're gonna throw a projectile. You say hiya, right? And you just go straight through the projectile, and now they're taking damage. And I keep dropping that, but it's okay. But yeah, I think you get the point. Now it doesn't go that far, so you can't do it from very far. You got to do it within a very specific range, like right around here, and it will go through and hit them. And then you can get them to the corner or whatever it is you want to do. So those are the uses for that. And her third super is going to be the Sultan Redka. And this is, we're going to reverse the inputs from down, down, forward, forward. And we're gonna go the opposite way. So it's gonna be down, down, back, back. And it's down, down, back, back, down, down, back, back, plus any one of the kick buttons. That's how we're gonna do this. And pretty much what this is useful for is, you can mash this as well, though it's more costly if you get it wrong. Like if your opponent blocks it, they're not only going to destroy you that round, but if you have another round left, you have no more of your super gauge left to work with. So you do want to be careful if you try to call somebody out on this. But let's go ahead and get Ryu to start mashing again. And let's say he's slamming buttons in our face, and we're tired of it, so we just smash this out. So this is also invincible to your opponent pushing buttons, but it will also go through projectiles as well. So if your opponent if we go ahead and get Ryu to stop slamming buttons again, and we get him to throw a projectile, if you're within a specific range, it will also go through projectiles. Now I'm too far. Actually, no, I'm not. Okay, it goes further than I expected. If you are too far away, you're just gonna get hit in the face, right? But if you're close enough, she will actually go through the projectile. This is hard because the projectiles are a jump scare at this range, but if your opponent is being very predictable, or if you're in the corner and you don't know, you just want to get them off of you, even if they do a projectile, this beats the projectile, whereas this one does not. And I did that too early. See? I'm going to get hit. But this one goes through the projectile, right? So those are pretty much the utility uses for that. Other than that, it just does a butt ton of damage. If we just do it by itself, we're gonna see it's gonna do over 3k. Right? As you can see, it does exactly 40% of their health bar. So that's a lot of damage just on its own. So it's usually used as a combo ender to get, as you saw earlier in the video, to get gigantic amounts of damage. I'm gonna do a different type of combo since you saw that other one before. We're gonna do something like this. This isn't the most optimal combo, but it's still a lot of damage, right? So it's a combo ender that gives you a lot of damage. That's 5,520. Right? That's 55% of his health bar, give or take, approximately. So yeah, that's pretty much her supers. Those are the uses for it, basically. And I just wanted to add those on, that way that, because I forgot to do it within the rest of the guide. But yeah, that's going to be it for the supers. Thank you again for tuning in for that. Alrighty there. Now that we've made some progress towards, we went ahead and we went over some of the more basics, and we went over Chun Li's normals and special moves. Next, we're going to try to bridge everything together. So
I don't have time
things are
to
going
be
to get
late.
really exciting now. We're trying to look at how we want to structure combos for Chun Li. This is going to be more of her bread and butter material. Like I said, we're not worried about optimization. When any pretty much anything under high diamond and master rank, you don't need to agonize over everything being optimized or quote unquote perfect. The key thing is to make sure that you are capable of showcasing these capabilities. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be taking a look at bread and butter combos. So now let me go ahead and pick Ryu for a moment here, just so that Ken doesn't interrupt us with his little jargon there. What are you waiting for? You know. So when it comes to Chun Li, how we're going to be structuring combos is now the goal of this game is where we want to, looking backwards, where you want to end up eventually is you want to put your opponent in a disadvantageous position off of pretty much everything that you do. This technically would include throwing. Unfortunately, it's not the case with Chun Li. I'm not going to get into the specifics of why, and I do have plenty of videos where I complain about this thing specifically if you wanted to know. But Chun Li, unfortunately, she can't really do anything off of a throw out in the open. However, she can in the corner, something like this. It will interrupt anything that your opponent tries to do outside of a super, an OD reversal, or a parry or something of that nature. Technically, they can also hit drive impact, but if you have the reaction speed, which hopefully you're not like me and lacking in that department, you can't punish them for it. Um, but generally speaking, most characters can get something off of their throw. Ryu can get something off of a grab. He can grab you again, or he can also just press buttons as well. Same thing when you're out in the open. Ryu, I don't know how to do it, but Ryu can follow up on a throw out here. But the end game, which you want to be, just so that you know, I don't expect anybody to be able to masterfully showcase this as beginners or even getting into the intermediate territory. This is just so that you have a goal. That way you can visualize and understand what it is that you're working towards, right? I'm pretty sure those players out there are frustrated because they don't know what they're working towards. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just told that this is what you do. But the end goal is everything that you do, you want to put your opponent in a situation that will decrease their chances of winning the game, basically, and increase your chances of winning it. So you can't do it off of a throw, but anything that you do, you want to, and it's not always about getting damage. It's not always just about getting damage. It's also about making sure that once you get the damage, it could lead to more damage. Because something else that I didn't mention earlier that fighting games are more about nowadays is there's a lot of guessing in. There is knowledge, but there's also there's order and chaos, especially in this game. There is order, there is knowing the frame data and the distance for things and what works and what doesn't work when your opponent does a specific move. And then there's the chaos element. There is the guessing element. When Ryu has you in the corner like this, and he's doing this crap to you all day, and you don't know if he's going to throw you again or if he's going to decide to press a button. So there's guessing in these games. And from the lowest level to the highest level, people guess. Even the pros, the mightiest players in the world, are put into situations where they pretty much have to flip a coin. So now, obviously, their experience and knowledge makes it easier to flip that coin, especially against lower ranked players. But you still have to guess, right? And that segues into what I mean about you want to get something off of everything that you do. Is a lot of what this game is. The win conditions are getting your opponent into a situation where they have to guess. Getting them into the corner is the primary win condition. This is where you want to try to get your opponent anytime you do a combo, right? You want to ideally try to get them to the corner. And if you're failing to do that, you want them in a situation where after you're done hitting them, they have to guess. Right? That's pretty much what you want to do. And I'm going to showcase a little bit of what that looks like with Chun Li. Like I said, we're not getting into the combo structure, and even though this stuff might be optimal, I'm not worried about you doing that. It's just to give you an idea of what you're going to be working towards, right? So when it says ready, fight, and you and Ryu are playing, let's say that we get Ryu to do all this stuff here. Like, you know, we're fighting, whatever. Right? Or if we want to get him even closer to the corner. Right? See, in this situation, Ryu, not only is he in the corner, but he also has the guess. Am I going to press a button or am I going to try to grab him? Right? So we get him back over here like this. Right? See what I'm saying? He has to guess. And in this game, what happens is once you start to learn your character and your setups and things of that nature, you will get something. Remember we talked about earlier with this? This is now not so much for Chun Li because this pushes her back, so she can't actually throw off of just doing this. But the idea is, you see how those bars down there, you see the frame bars that we mentioned earlier, how it says startup 5F, total 18F, advantage 1F. Where it says advantage, that is frame advantage. Like I said, we're not going to go into frame data too much. But when you have frame advantage, when you know how to use it properly, you can make your opponent guess, which will allow you to basically put your opponent in a situation where if they cannot guess right, they will lose the game. That's the idea. So unfortunately, Chun Li can't really do that off of something like this. But there are situations where you can do that. For example, if your opponent's doing all this, and you catch them with something like this, right? You're close enough to throw them. So they have to guess, is Chun Li going to see how it says 3F next to the advantage? Is Chun Li going to grab me? Or is she going to keep pressing buttons? See, in this situation, your opponent has to guess, and each one is a risk. If they think you're going to grab and they try to throw like this, and you press buttons, you're going to win that exchange pretty much. And they're going to get hit and continue to take more damage. If they try to press buttons because they think that you're going to throw them as well, then they also can't press buttons because you have the advantage. Any buttons they press will be beat. So that means their options are pretty much to now they could also try to just block if they think you're going to press buttons, but then you could just throw them in. Now this doesn't apply as much to Chun Li, but this is the fundamental of the game. I'm not going to get too much into the detail of the frame data and the super duper specifics, but this is what most characters are trying to do. This is what pros are trying to do. This is what like everybody that's playing this game that knows how to play the game is trying to do. So if we go ahead and set this up, for example, if we get Ryu to we're going to get Ryu to try to throw. All right. This is, well, not wake up, I'm sorry. We need to go to after damage. So after taking damage, we're going to get Ryu to try to throw. See? So we're going to do something. We're going to do this. And you see how Ryu's throwing? Now what happens if he tries to grab and we keep pressing? Right? Exactly. So you can see that like he loses outright. Right? it stuffs his stuff. Now what happens if Ryu decides to block? Let's say we do this and he blocks, right? You can get thrown. So this puts your opponent in a situation where they're like, I don't know what to do. What happens if your opponent decides that they want to do an OD reversal? because the OD reversal will be you trying to press buttons, and I put that in the wrong area. We're gonna put that in reversal after damage. My apologies. OD Shoryuken. There we go. So this OD Shoryuken will be us trying to press buttons, and it will be us trying to throw them. See that? So it beats both of those options. So what if they try to do something like that? That's the way out, right? But what if we just do nothing? And I actually messed that up, sorry. But what if we go ahead and do nothing at all? And I think I have okay. That's why Ryu is doing it. Okay. What if we don't do anything at all? Look at his health bar. You see his health? That's he's pretty much dead. Like one more combo and that's it, right? Like literally one or two more little combos and he's dead, right? That's an insane amount of damage just for because you tried to guess, right? And that's kind of the trifecta right there is that they have to guess what it is that you're going to do. It doesn't matter what it is. And if you make the right calls, you can continue to damage your opponent. Now let's say you have Ryu doing all of this bullcrap right here where he's, we're in neutral at the start of the game. And you just do something like that. For most characters in this game, and the way that this game is generally played, just off of something like this, you can snowball the entire game just off of that, right? You see how hopefully that's making a little bit more sense for you, right? That's what you're going to be working towards. You want to work towards everything that you do, whether it's hitting this move or this move or this move, this move. And let's get Ryu to stop doing that. We're making a song here. Shoryuken, this move, Shoryuken, that move, this Shoryuken. But off of everything that you do, off of this, off of this, right? The goal is everything that you do is going to lead to a situation where your opponent has to guess. That's the idea. That's what pretty much most characters in this game are trying to do. Akuma, Ryu, Ken, Cammy, Kimberly. It's not the case with every single character. Like I said, Chun Li is not really amongst that list, but that's where you want to work towards. Like I said, I'm not going to get into specifics why, but I still want you to play that way. Trust me on that. Without worrying about the specifics as to why Chun-Li can't do it. We're not going to worry about that yet. We just want to make sure that we're doing that, right? It's going to get us in the right direction. So that's the end goal. Now that we understand the end goal of what it is that we want to try to work towards, let's go ahead and get into some bread and butter combos here. So when you're fighting, and especially if you're in the lower ranks like, silver, gold, platinum, and even diamond to an extent, there's going to be some bread and butter stuff that you're going to want to do with Chun-Li. Her bread and butter stuff to be optimal is going to be harder to do. Just so that you know what it is that you're trying to work towards. I'm going to give you an example of, we're going to break this down into a light combo / pressure, also known as hit confirm combo, and heavy punish combo. And basically what this is the first segment, which is a light punishment / hit confirm combos, when you're playing against your opponent, they can block at any time. You have no idea. Let's go ahead and set Ryu to block randomly. I don't know when he's gonna block. So as we stated earlier, some of these moves are very unsafe if your opponent blocks them. So if I just throw them out, they can punish me for it. Right? You don't know if they're blocking or not. This is where the hit confirm combos come in. Hit confirm combos are usually done off of, you can do them off of light attacks, medium attacks, and heavy attacks. But what we want to worry about right now is we want to worry about doing it off of the light stuff because that's generally what you're going to be doing. So if you get into position and you're in your opponent's face, your hit confirm combo is going to be something like this. And the reason why it's called a hit confirm combo, I have discussed this in other videos, but to get more into detail of in this video specifically, why it is called a hit confirm combo is because, like I stated a moment ago, if you just throw stuff out, there's no way that you can tell if your opponent is being hit off of just one jab. Like, maybe you have one person out there with a third eye on their forehead that everything's moving in slow motion, but even pros can't progress off of a simple jab like this, right? Only under specific conditions where, like, if your opponent whiffs something or they do something that is guaranteed for them to be punished afterwards. Like if Ryu does something like this. See, he's negative. He cannot block after doing this. So it's guaranteed. Here, you can just go through with whatever it is that you're trying to do because you have knowledge that he can't block after. But if they're just moving around like this, you don't know. It's risky to just throw something like this out because they can literally end your life for it. So hit confirming puts your opponent into a situation where, and what it is you're using multiple attacks because it's giving you time to tell if your opponent is being hit or not. Right? That's why we're chaining together multiple attacks. Right? And these attacks are very hard to interrupt. You can pretty much trust that within the first 3 jabs, your opponent can't really interrupt this. After the 3rd jab, you want to be careful about pressing buttons after that point because your opponent can interrupt whatever it is that you're doing. But within the first 3 jabs, if you're really close to them, they can't interrupt this. So you can unless you're being super duper predictable, even high level players are not going to like interrupt you doing this, even if they block the first 2 jabs or something like that, right? So unless you are just only doing this, it's actually going to be very hard to deal with. So this is called a hit confirm. You see how I can tell if Ryu's being hit or not? To showcase that, remember earlier I said that I'm not going to be able to, I can't tell. See, this is a bad situation. He blocked that. He can punish me after. All right. He can punish, just so that you can see what I'm talking about. We're going to go ahead and get Ryu to, after a block, he's going to do a crouching medium punch, which is pretty slow. See, I can't block. I can't block, I can't attack, I can't do anything. Right. So if you just do this and they block it, that's what's going to happen. All right. It's too fast. I can't, by the time I tell if he's getting hit by the jab, it's too late to do that. See? It's too late. Oh, he's getting hit now. Oops. Oh, it's too late now. Right. What hit confirming allows you to do is it allows you to be able to tell. It gives you time to visualize to react if your opponent's getting hit or not. Now that I have explained why we're doing 3 jabs here and what hit confirming is, I'm going to go ahead and you saw how I was messing up with this, right? He's punishing me. Now, let's see how many times he punishes me when I do the proper hit confirm combo. Actually, let's go ahead and get that because he's when he's blocking, he's pushing buttons right here. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that button off here. But pay very close attention. You notice how I'm only doing the lightning legs when he's getting hit. And a lot of lower rank. Actually, I messed that one up. Um, I actually did a Newton oopsie there. Sometimes it happens like that, but I'm only doing the lightning legs when within the first two jabs. If I recognize he's getting hit, by the time of the third jab, it's the same situation as this. If they block the first two and you get to the third jab, you don't follow with the lightning legs because you don't have enough time to react. But if they get hit by the first jab or the second one, then you're free to. Then obviously that's enough time for you to be able to tell that they're being hit. Right? See, no lightning legs. No lightning legs. Right. And that's how you pressure your opponent when they're not wide open or they didn't whiff anything big that leaves them wide open, right? So if your opponent's just moving around like this, right, like that, and you get close to them, let's say that you do this into a drive rush cancel, right, like that. They can't really interrupt this unless they do an OD reversal, right? So even if they block, lower ranked players are going to try to press buttons through this, so you're going to see a lot of success with this stuff. As you fight people that know what they're doing more and more, it's going to have less and less effectiveness, but it's still important from the highest levels to the lowest levels. Right? This is a fundamental skill. It's hit confirming, and this is how you're going to get your damage when your opponent isn't wide open, right? So hopefully that makes sense as to exactly how that works and why we do the hit confirm combo. Now, this same type of combo, the reason why I said earlier at the beginning of this showcase is it's a hit confirm / light punish combo is because sometimes our opponents will do things that leave them disadvantageous. Actually, not that move. Ryu is not disadvantageous like that. Let's see, how about this one? Let's see if we can get something else. What is Shogeki on block? Oh, he's also safe on that. Plus, I don't use Ryu, so I'm trying to think of a scenario where he's Let's see if I can get another character here that does something that's unsafe. That requires Bison. That's the one that we had before. Perfect. So let's say that Bison is scamming this all day. You can't punish him with this because he recovers too quickly. See? You also can't punish him with this. Let's get him to block. Actually, we're gonna get him to block all so that way we know. See? And we're gonna turn this super off. But this does work. See that? He can't block in time. That's because, like I said, we're not gonna get into frame data, but just trust me on this. He cannot block this. He's not allowed to push buttons or block after you block this attack. And he's very close to us, so we can catch him with the jab and punish him, right? So now, the only reason we're not doing 3 jabs is because he's too far away. But if he was closer, if somebody does something like that leaves them wide open and they're closer to you, then you can technically do this to punish them. This is a very, very super bread and butter combo. It leaves you advantageous and you're close enough to your opponent to follow up with something like this or something like this. If they try to press buttons after they get hit by the lightning picks there, for example, if we get Bison to try to do his fastest attack, where is it? Okay. After taking damage, we're going to get Bison to do a crouching light jab, which is 4 frames. Yep. One of the fastest attacks types in the game, 4 frames. See how he's jabbing after that? Now, if we do something after this, I mistimed it right there. That's technically a trade, right? But what if we do something like this? See, he gets hit. I mistimed it right there, so we ended up trading. But because, and like I said, it's frame data. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but a lot of newer players in the lower ranks are going to try to do big moves. Now, the jab specifically trades here, but if they do anything slower than that, you're going to win that exchange. So we're going to get him to do a move that's slower. What is his light jab? I think it's 5. Yeah. His standing light jab is 5 there. So if he does that, like that, right, we're going to win the exchange. See? So, something like that. And what this means is that if your opponent gets hit by this, we can do combos, right? We can drive rush at them and get them into combos. But your opponent doesn't have to press a button. What if they do nothing? Let's go ahead and get and set Bison to do nothing. And I'm drawing a blank here, my apologies. Common actions, do nothing. Okay, weird. What if Bison does nothing? And we drive rush over there. We're using our resources. We can't even get the combo. Right? That is a very good observation. However, whether they do nothing or not, we're in a position where we can put them into that situation. Remember what we said earlier. If your opponent, let's get Bison to stop doing stuff here. Actually, let's get him to block off for a moment. If your opponent, remember we said here, this was earlier in the guide. Your opponent can't interrupt this with their normal moves. So if we get Bison to on block to do his fastest move, see that? He loses. If I don't mistime it, he loses this exchange, right? So this is when he's blocking this, right? So it doesn't matter if he's getting hit or blocking. You see how what we're doing here, right? And this is, trust me, this is going somewhere. We're gonna do the elbow. So now what happens if we hit him and he presses a button and we counter hit him? We're going to turn first block back on. What happens if we do this? The result is the same. But what happens if he blocks it? Let's go ahead and turn that off. What happens if he blocks it? It's still the same. So, like I said, for your bread and butter stuff, this is your bread and butter. Like I said, light pressure punish slash hit confirm combo. This is something that I want you to do. A variation of that, if you need to hit their feet, if your opponent isn't blocking low, is something like this. Right. You can also do this. Like if you're crouching and your opponent's attacking you, and once they're done attacking you, you're done blocking, you can do that. Right. These are all like variations of pretty much the same exact thing. If you're a true beginner, this might be more difficult to follow. But it's all variations of the same thing pretty much. The only difference is the lows will hit them if they aren't blocking low. Right? So that's the advantage of that. But it's all the same type of idea. Fortunately, you can't do 3 low kicks like that, right? You can't do that, but you can do this with Chun Li specifically. Right? So they're pretty much the same thing. I want you to think of it as the same thing, except the lows are for catching people's feet, which lower ranked players are going to get caught by the lows a lot more because they don't block low. They're not going to be blocking low as much. So, with that being said, after we do this, we're going to sequence it the same way. All right, this is pretty much safe. In the lower, I want you to start out with this. Lower ranked players aren't going to know what to do with it. They're not going to know how to stop it, right? You might fight somebody that might get lucky and they might mash their way out of it, but somebody that an intermediate or advanced player would be required to stop this. Like, and that's only if you're being super obvious. And an advanced player, if you keep doing this all the time, they're going to know how to check it, right? They're going to have a solution to stop you from doing this. But I want you to start, or you can do it, the variation is you can do this version. You can either do this into the drive rush or this into the drive rush. Either one, it doesn't matter. It's almost the same exact thing. Almost the same thing. And when you do this sequence, it doesn't matter if they get hit or not. I mean, it doesn't matter if they block or if they get hit. It's going to be the same sequence. So we're going to get Bison here he's going to do nothing or he's going to jab. This is going to result in him either being hit more or just blocking. See? It doesn't matter. This is a situation where you are at an advantage. Right. Now, you do want to be careful with this. We're not going to go into meter management too much in this video. I do have other videos for that. Dojo sessions that speak about meter management. But if you are at 3 bars of meter already, you want to be careful about doing it. But if you're playing in the lower ranks, you don't have to worry about it too much, but I do want you to be careful with it. If you have 4 bars and you do this, you're golden, right? But if you're at 3 bars already, let's say you did this once already, try to prevent from doing that. If you catch your opponent, just do something like that. Let your bars fill back up, and then once you get enough, because you don't want to be in a situation where you do this and you burn yourself out, right? Because it might not be as impactful in the lower ranks, but as you start fighting people in like Diamond and Master, they will punish you extremely hard for going into the burnout state, right? Which, we're not going to go into the specific properties of burnout, but when you are in burnout, you're at a massive disadvantage. You can't do OD moves, so you can't do your OD reversal, your get off me tool that we mentioned earlier. Your opponent is practically unstoppable if they attack you and you block. They can just kind of keep attacking you and then push you into the corner. And if they do a drive impact when you're in the corner and you're in that state, there's almost nothing you can do about it. They pretty much get a guaranteed combo. And I'm going to showcase that here. All right, we're going to get Bison to push us to the corner. Even if Chun Li blocks this, that's a free combo, right? And it's going to be a lot more damage than that, trust me. You're pretty much going to lose the game in that situation. So you don't want to go into burnout. We're not going to go into the specifics, but practice not overdoing it. Try to pay very close attention to those green bars under your health bar. When you do this sequence, if you have more than 3 bars, go ahead. But if you have 3 bars specifically or less than that, just end it here. Or you can do an attack without the drive rush like that, right? Right, so that's pretty much the goal, right? So, hopefully this is making sense. Right. Hopefully it's making sense. So, that being said, we're going to do this regardless, and that's going to blend all the stuff that we've been talking about for the past 30 minutes together. So we're going to get Bison. Let's say that he decides that he wants to press a button. This leads us into our next bread and butter combo, which is her standing medium punch into crouching medium punch into spinning bird kick. And you can do this into any of the spinning bird kicks. You can do it into the light one, the medium one, or the heavy. Doesn't matter which one. We're not going to worry too much about the specifics since this is a beginner guide. But ideally, since you can do the heavy one, that's the one that you want to aim for. Off of this combo. Now, it's a little tricky. If you're newer, it might be a little bit hard because spinning bird kick requires you to charge the move, but you don't have to charge it for a full 2 seconds. I believe I think you only have to charge this for 1 second, if I'm not mistaken. So you can charge that faster in her Kokoken. See, if I try to charge it for the same exact time, I'm not getting the Kokoken, right? But I am getting the spinning bird kick. So they made the spinning bird kick come out faster so that it's easier to do for your combos and things of that nature, right? So it comes out faster. So it's a little tricky because you have to, when you're doing this sequence, let's get Bison to stop pressing here. So obviously, in order to do this, you do standing heavy punch into crouching medium punch. This might not be too hard. You see on the left side of the screen where it says right caught in the middle of all those stream of inputs there. You see how it says 2 hits. Right. This means that it's a combo. Same thing here. If you see 6 hits, 7 hits, that means that that means all your moves connected and they comboed. Your opponent cannot do anything while they're in the middle of being comboed. There's nothing at all that can be done, right? So this might be the easy part. The hard part is going to be charging the spinning bird kick while you're doing this sequence. I find that it is helpful that when you go for this, when you press and hold down immediately when you press this button right here, it should work by the time you're done hitting them with the crouching medium. See that? I'm pressing and holding down, if you see my inputs here, immediately when I press the standing medium. If you press down too early, you're just going to start with this, which is not what we want to do. But if you press down the moment that you press the medium punch, it will come out and then she will crouch afterwards, which will allow you to do this. So try practicing, make sure that you can do this without failure about 5 to 10 times. If you can do this without failure about 5 to 10 times, right? I'm actually dropping it here, strangely enough. That's funny, but you know, if you can do this here without messing it up, then you can move to the next step. The next step would be, if you're having trouble with doing the charge moves, just so you can get used to doing this into the spinning bird kick, just crouch and practice doing this. And then once you're able to do it 5 to 10 times in a row without messing it up, then you can segue into this. And then do it 5 to 10 times without messing it up. Don't beat yourself up though if you do end up messing it up though. This requires some execution, and when I'm in a high pressure situation, even I drop this sometimes. I've seen pro players drop this. It's rare, but it happens. Right? So we get acclimated to doing it because we've been using the character for so long. But if you're newer, it might be a little bit harder, but just break it apart, right? And that's going to be this specific bread and butter combo. And like I said, that segues from using this, like we said earlier, because you can drive rush. And the reason why this is important is because we can do that. But if our opponent blocks it, we can still do the same sequence. But remember what we said about hit confirming with this, right? It's giving us time to see if our opponent is being hit. It's the same thing with this. We have time to see if our opponent is being hit or not. So if we put the opponent to block randomly, I will be able to tell if they're being hit. The goal is to, if they are being hit, we're going to do spinning bird kick. If they block this, we're not going to do spinning bird kick because that's a no-no. Right? They can destroy us for that. And that's the goal. We're going to get Bison to block randomly. And we're going to be able to tell from this sequence, by the time we get to The crouching medium punch, we should be able to tell if they are being hit or not. And the goal is to, if they are being hit, we're going to do the spinning bird kick. If they are not being hit, then we are not going to do anything after this move. So we're going to begin that now. Yeah, he's on random block. See that? I didn't do the spinning bird kick. Pay very close attention there. Even with my slow reaction speed, this is plenty enough time for me to see. Now, by the time you get, if your opponent blocks this and this, if they block this move and this move, by the time you get here, that's probably going to be a little bit hard to tell if they are blocking or not. Like if we set them to random block, I can't visualize in time if they're being hit or not on just this move. So if they block the first two moves, like this, we're gonna assume that they're gonna block this too. So don't worry about the third attack in your sequence. Pay close attention to these. If they get hit at any point in these two attacks, that's plenty enough time to tell if they're being hit or not. That's plenty enough. So we're gonna go ahead and put them back to random. See? That's the hit confirming we were talking about. Very important skill to have and train. And if you really want to push it, you can just do this into spinning bird kick as well. The reason why I do it off of this is because this is a short range move. Newer players might not know how to use this well enough to know how they can cover this distance without being hit. That's why what I said earlier, you can do this into this, right? That's the reason why I mentioned that. It's because it's probably a little bit easier for you to see how to use it. It's going to be hard to utilize this just by you walking up to your opponent. It's actually harder, much harder than it seems. Even I don't do this. Even pro players don't do this unless like they're fighting somebody that is terrified to press buttons or something like that. But that's neither here nor there. But hopefully that makes sense, right? So as you're able to see from the, it's not so easy to just randomly do this. But technically speaking, if you are close to your opponent for whatever reason, you don't have to do this. Obviously, like I said, if you have 3 or less bars in your drive gauge there, the green squares as we mentioned under your health bar, you obviously don't want to be spending that meter doing drive rushing like that. So if you're close to your opponent and you don't have to do this, you can just do this. And the same way, instead of this, we're only going to do the spinning bird kick if Bison gets hit. If he blocks, we're not doing the spinning bird kick. Actually, I mistimed that. He did get hit by this, but I mistimed the crouching medium. Right. So pretty much, if he blocks the standing attack, I'm not even going to follow through with the spinning bird kick. And sometimes you might have an oopsie when they do get hit and you still don't follow through. That happens, especially under pressure. Right. And like we said before, if he blocks in this sequence specifically, because there's not enough time he blocked this move. So if he blocks this move, there's not enough time to safely tell if he's going to get hit by this. Unless you want to take the risk and you think he's going to press a button or something. But it's risky, right? Ultimately, if you're trying to do this appropriately without taking the risk, if they don't get hit in this sequence specifically, if they do not get hit, since we are only working with 2 attacks, if they block the first attack, assume that they will block the second attack as well. Only if they get hit by the first attack will you continue to follow through. If they block the first attack, you notice how when he blocks the first one, I'm not even doing the spinning bird kick. I'm not even thinking about it. See that? So this is hit confirming. It's the same type of idea as this. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just using your different buttons in different situations, right? So like I said, obviously this goes further than this. You can't just. It's going to be very hard to just walk up to people, skilled players and newer players alike, and just press this. But this is where something like this comes, because this is a pretty good poke. It goes pretty far, right? And that's where you can like try to push buttons in their face like this, and then do that, right? This is for if you're like, you can also, if you're this close, you can just do this as well if you're more comfortable with it. But something else that you can do is this. This is her medium bread and butter combo. Right. For a beginner, let's go ahead and get him to stop blocking now. Thanks, Bison. Appreciate it. For a beginner, this is what you want to try to do, and you want to try to do the heavy spinning bird kick each time. And then as you get sharper and you start to learn more about the game and advance further, then we can deviate a little bit. But for now, this is what you want to try to do. Right. Bread and butter. Bread and butter. Right. Bread and butter. Now she has other things that she can do. You can technically do this, but that's a little bit more advanced because it actually requires quite a bit execution to do. I had to train quite extensively to be able to consistently do this. So I'm not even going to explain exactly how I'm doing it here, but if somebody requests it, even if you're a beginner player, if you make a specific request, I can make a short video on how to train doing this. This technically is more optimal than doing this or doing this, because it gives you more options on how to. Remember, we said earlier we're trying to make our opponent guess. If you do this, they don't have to really guess that much because you're not in range to actually throw them. You still have the advantage if they try to press most of their buttons when you do this sequence outside of a jab. You will win, and that will allow you to get closer to them where you can make them guess, right? So newer players, beginner to intermediate players, are not going to really understand that. So you can use this safely as to get you started. But eventually we want to try to get to where we can do this one here, because we get more options on making our opponent guess, right? Not going to go too much into detail. So this is a bread and butter combo for those that are exceptionally familiar with fighting games. Or as you advance further, you can replace this. Heck, sometimes I still use both of them, depending on the situation. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I'll do this version. Sometimes I'll do this version. It depends, right? But for now, as a beginner to intermediate player, just do this one. And if you make the request to learn how to do this version, then I'll make that content for you. But for now, just try the easier version until you get more acclimated to things, right? So those are basically the standard bread and butter combos. They can get more advanced. Something that's a little bit more advanced in terms of like a bread and butter combo is something like we said here, or this, or this, right? Same thing. All those fundamentals we just talked about for the last 30 to 40 minutes or so, it's the same type of idea. If Bison, because this is unsafe on blocking, he can destroy our universe for it. The goal is to, if we do this, if we do this sequence, we are only going to do the lightning kicks if we hit confirm that he is being hit. And feel free to, if you're following along with this video with your Street Fighter game open, feel free to pause the video and try to test it for yourself. It's the same idea. We're only going to do the lightning legs if he is if we hit confirm, right? The same type of idea. See, let's go ahead and do it. Start in the corner so we don't have to keep chasing him down. This is another bread and butter combo. Now you can also, in order to get more damage, if you have super arts, which as you see, we went over this earlier. The two bars at the very bottom of the screen at the left and right extreme there, with the large glowing number 3 next to it. If you have gauge to spin, you can actually get more damage off of this bread and butter combo by doing her level 1 super, but that's by doing quarter circle forward, and any punch button. The timing's a little tricky. It's going to be the same properties no matter whether you do light, medium, or heavy version. It doesn't matter, right? It costs 1 bar. You see how it goes from 3 to 2. So you can do it again. And you can do it again. And once you hit 0, obviously, you can't do it, right? So it might be a little tricky to do this combo. I know it was for me at first. It has a very specific timing to it. But I encourage you to practice it. You kind of want to be buffering right as she's doing the lightning kicks. You want to be inputting the special move right around the end of that, right? Like that. See? If you wait until after the lightning kicks are over, that's a little bit harder to do. I just did it right there. But there's a good chance you might drop it. So if you do it like right towards the end of the lightning kicks, it should work out for you, right? That's a bread and butter combo. If you want to get a little bit more damage, you can see right there how much damage it's capable of doing. It can do like close to 4,000 damage on just that combo. That's 40% of their health bar, right? So not bad, right? That's another bread and butter combo that you can do off of this stuff here. Right. Let's see, what else can we do? I think that's it for the bread and butter stuff. Anything other than that is probably getting a little more complicated. You can technically do something like this. The timing is a little bit tight though, because you don't have a lot of bandwidth to hit confirm this. All right. I'm trying to get Bison to let's get him to block off for a minute. I want to see something here. Hey, that is +3. Wait, okay. So I just wanted to see that real quick. So this is a little trickier to do just randomly. You're probably going to use this more to punish people if they do something that can be punished with this move. But something that was like this, but I wouldn't really worry about this as a beginner player. This is getting a little more advanced because these head stomps, this is using her stance too. And these head stomps are a little bit hard to do. All right. They require a specific timing, and there's a very specific reason why a player wants to do this instead of just doing this. Right? And since this is a beginner guide, we're not going to go into those specifics just yet, right? But that is it. I wouldn't say this is a bread and butter, but it's probably the next tier up, right? But just so, like I said, so that you can see where we're working towards. But for now, I would say just stick with this here as a beginner. And then once you become more familiar with doing these things, once you're able to take things to the next level, then we can do more intermediate stuff, right? Or advanced things. So, but that's pretty much the beginner combos right there. And next, I mentioned that we have another type of combo next to our light punish / hit confirm combos. We have our heavy punish combos. Now, the reason why these are not classified as being like hit confirmable is because they are risky. Usually, when you go for these, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage for one reason or another. So, These are specifically for when you catch your opponent making a huge mistake. You typically don't just throw this stuff out and just go with it, right? I'm going to show you an example of a heavy hit confirm combo. Just throwing it out willy-nilly, right? Your opponent, not only can they punish you very hard at the end of that, but they can interrupt you at any point during this sequence. So, if your opponent is just doing this stuff, you typically don't want to throw this out, right? It's not a very good approach vector, and then even if they do get hit by that, none of this stuff combos. See that? It doesn't combo. So you can't really do that. This is for when people make huge mistakes, like something like this. Right? That's what our heavy punish combo is, right? And they're typically for dealing damage. So that's if you don't have resources, let's say you just started the game, and it says ready, fight, right? And let's say for some odd reason you're at, remember what we said about the drive gauge. If you're at, with Chun Li especially, if you're at 3 or lower, try not to do any shenanigans like this. You want to preserve that meter as much as you can, right? Even if, let me go ahead and get Bison to stop blocking here. So you want to try to preserve this meter as much as you can because you don't want to be close to burnout. Sometimes you do have to put yourself close to burnout, but as beginners, we're going to work on getting the habit of not going into burnout, because you're going to pay for it later when you fight better players if you do not, if you are wasting your meter management a lot. So we're going to start by not building that habit. Right? So if you're at 3 bars or less, we don't want to spend meter doing OD moves for the most part, and unless it's a very specific situation. If your opponent is jumping on you and you feel like you're going to lose, then yeah, you can do something like this. That's fine. Right? But for the most part, try not to spin that meter unless you have 4 or more bars, right? See, now we can spin the meter because we have more than 3, right? This, like I said, this is just for beginners. We'll get into using the meter a bit more as we advance, right? But let's say, ready, fight. Everybody starts the game, and you and Bison both have 0 super gauge at the bottom there. You can't do any of your super moves. You don't have the gauge to do it, and both of you have 6 bars. And let's say Bison does something crazy like this. Right. That's what something like this will be used for. Now, obviously, you can't punish everything. There are things that are unsafe that this won't punish. Like if Bison does this, as we showed earlier, you can't punish it with this. That's going into frame data, so we're not going to worry too much about that. That's going into more advanced stuff. But so for now, your heavy punish combos, I only want you to worry about doing it if your opponent makes a giant mistake. Like if they do something, let's say that they do have meter and Bison decides to do this and you block it. Right. That's a situation where you can definitely do this heavy punish combo and it's pretty much guaranteed to work. If somebody messes up a super and they're close enough to you, go ahead and let it rip because they can't block it. Right. Or if somebody messes up something like this, let's go ahead and pick Ryu again here. Oh, whoops. There we go. Go ahead and pick Ryu, and let's say that Ryu does something like this. He can't block. You can do your heavy punish combo. As a beginner, these are the situations where I want you to do the heavy punish combos, right? And this is something that you do specifically, Just so that we don't have to have Ryu doing that every time, let's go ahead and set this like this. Pretend like he wished something, right? When you're doing your heavy punish combo, if you have 3 bars or less, like this, that's when you would do something like this. It takes them to the corner, which is what we discussed earlier, is putting them in a very bad situation. It puts them in a situation where they have to guess. And it does a pretty hefty amount of damage. That's almost 30% of their health bar just off of that, right? But this is something specific for if you're really just trying to get the feel for punishing people, and or you don't have the meter, because the rules that we set here is if you have 3 or less in your drive gauge bar up there, we don't want to waste our meter and go into burnout, right? So now if you have 6 bars, since the whole purpose of this is to do damage, we're going to try to get some damage off of this, right? So we're going to crank it up a little bit. Instead of just the standard this in spinning bird kick ender, we're going to do this OD spinning bird, which puts the opponent into a state where they're juggled so we can get more damage. Right? See, that's almost 400 points more damage, right? And if you're close enough to the corner when you do this, that's 36, 37% of their health gauge, right? You can get even more damage. And if you have super, depending on which one, you can get even more damage. All right. Well, technically the other one does more, but that's a corner combo specifically. The one where we did this one right here is corner. You can't do this outside of the corner, and I will demonstrate. Let's go ahead and there we go. All right. You need the corner to do that. So that's why that one did more damage. Corner combos typically do more damage because they allow you to do some crazy stuff that you can't do out in the open, right? But since you can't do all of that, you can't do the lightning legs into this. The soup out here in the open, going into the super does more damage than the Tensho fix, right? So if this is confusing, I know I might be going a little bit off the rails here, but just so that you can see, our goal with this is to do damage. That's what heavy punish combos are for. So, but for what I want you to worry about right now is this. If you're just getting started and you're fighting people online, just get used to doing this. And how you do this is you do her heavy punch, and you go into her stance. Her stance, which is not something that we discussed yet, you go into her stance by doing quarter circle back in any one of the punch buttons. It doesn't matter which punch button you use. Yeah. And I know we didn't discuss the stance in this video because the stance is not really beginner friendly. That's going to be something for more intermediate stuff. But we do use the stance for combos, so we're going to talk about it just a little bit here, right? So this might be tricky if you're not used to it, but she can stance cancel off of a lot of her moves. Think about how when we did this, right? How you canceled into the lightning legs. It's the same type of idea. This is a special move. You want to think of these as being similar. Now, I'm not saying to do this sequence specifically, but the same way you think about doing this, you can also think about doing this. Right? It's the same type of idea. The same way you think about doing this, that's the same way you could think about doing this. It's a special move. Okay? You simply cancel it to follow up after your normal attacks in order to continue your sequence. Right? So, like I said, we're not going to be going into the stance's properties specifically, but this is quarter circle down to back. So down, down, back, back. And that's how you do this move. So it might be tricky to go from this into the stance for you if you're not used to it, but that's why you can practice breaking it down. Just practice canceling from this into the stance. One step at a time. And then once you go into the stance, the cool thing about the stance is that when you're in the stance, when you go into the stance from a move, you don't have to charge anything anymore. So you don't have to charge her Kokoken. You can just throw it out. You don't have to charge her spinning bird kick. You can just throw it out, right? So that's the cool thing about the stance, but we're not going to go too much into it. But it is integral to do this heavy punish combo, which is going to be your bread and butter heavy punish combo. Now, this does not work if you just catch your opponent in the open. So don't even bother trying to do this. It just doesn't work. You're not going to get anything from that. You're going to end up getting yourself into a bad situation. So refrain from doing it the best that you can. Right. This is for if your opponent makes a big oopsie, like they do something like this, and you catch them. Right. Again, that's the heavy punch stance cancel. And then once you are in the stance, you press the medium kick. That's going to look like this. So it's going to be heavy punch, stance, medium kick. And then you do the input for spinning bird kick, which is down, up. When you are doing this, you don't have to charge the spinning bird kick. Keep that in mind. All right. And the reason Ryu's not getting hit right now is because we turned the punish counter off. But if he's being punished, it will work, as you can see. So, heavy punch, cancel into the stance. From the stance, we're going to do medium kick. From the medium kick, we're going to push down, up, heavy kick. For the heavy spinning bird kick. So together, that's going to look like this. And if we do it when Ryu's being punished, it's going to look like this. Right? Now, to do all the flashy stuff we were doing off of the OD spinning bird kick, to do the OD spinning bird kick, you simply press 2 kick buttons at once. Right. So you go into the stance, medium kick, up, down, both kick buttons. See that? Let's go ahead and turn the punish counter back on. That way we can punish Ryu without him whiffing something. That's gonna look like this. And this is what I want you to do if you have more than 3 bars in your drive gauge, in the 6 glowing squares underneath your health bar. If you have more than 3, if you catch your opponent doing something crazy, this is what I want you to do. Don't worry about all the corner specific stuff just yet. That will come later. We're not going to be worried about all of this stuff. I want you to do this every time you catch them, even in the corner. Right? And that's what we're going to, that's how we're going to use this. And if you have drive gauge, you see how I have 1 drive gauge down there. If you have drive gauge, use it. You can do that one. And if you have 3 in your bar down there, if you have 3 of your drive gauge, I want you to do this one. Now this might seem to be more confusing. Like I said, if that's too much for you, just start with just doing this in every situation. Then once you get more comfortable with being aware of the situation, then I want you to do stuff like this. If you have 3 drive meter and you catch them, and you catch Ryu doing this, we're going to do this. Alright. And how do we do that? If this is a little bit too much for you, you can cut out the lightning kicks here and just go straight for the level 3. It will still work. It won't be as much damage, but it will still work. So if that's a little bit easier and you don't have to think as much about it. So the level 3, we do that by doing, it's kind of the same as the stance, except we do quarter circle back. So down, down, back, back, down, down, back, back. And then one of the punch buttons, doesn't matter which, I mean, one of the kick buttons, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter which kick button it is. This might be tricky to do if you're not used to it, but take it one step at a time. If you have to slowly get used to doing this motion, rolling your thumb across your D-pad or rolling your fingers across the buttons if you're using a hitbox controller, leverless controller, anything like that, whatever peripheral you're using, right? Just get used to doing it twice. Now, if you do it too slowly, it's not going to come out. So you have to do it a little faster, but once you get used to it, you should be able to get this out. And all together, that's going to look like this. And this will do a lot of damage. Again, this is if you have 3 bars there. I want you to get used to being able to do big damage whenever you catch your opponent doing it. If you are more comfortable with it, then you can use the lightning legs and then go into the level 3. Right? If you are not comfortable with doing supers, remember, one step at a time with all of this stuff. We're learning, we're trying to get used to it. We don't want to confuse ourselves. If you're not aware of what's happening enough to be able to tell, oh, I want to do a level 1, I'm going to do a level 3. If you're not that aware of it, hey, you catch your opponent, just do this. Again, this is only if you have more than 3 bars in your drive gauge up there. If you have 3 bars or less, I just want you to do this one. So if your drive meter underneath your health bar is looking like, if it's looking like this, or if it's looking like this, or this, then I just want you to do this version right here. And that's it. That's what we're going to start with, right? But if you catch somebody doing something crazy and you have this many bars, or this many bars, like if Ryu does something like this, then I want you to do this version. Right? And I just dropped the potential fix right there. I want you to do this version. And I want you to do this every time. Don't worry about corner combos. Don't worry about all that stuff. If doing this, all of this stuff is too much for you, like this, then just don't worry about that stuff. If you're in silver and gold and low platinum, just right now we just want to get familiar with using this stuff properly. We don't need to optimize it yet. I promise you don't need to optimize it. It helps if you can do optimal stuff in the lower ranks. It will snowball you very quickly to master rank. Like, you know, if you're a beginner with Chun Li, for example, but you're familiar with playing other fighting games, or if you've reached master with another character before and you're just new with Chun Li, you're probably going to be able to pick that up quicker. So you'll probably be able to do something like this once you get the muscle memory for it, right? But if you're a true beginner, if you're somebody that's a rookie, iron, bronze, silver, gold, and you know, it's your first fighting game, you don't really know what's happening, you're still learning, then just keep it as simple as you can. And remember, take this stuff one step at a time. If at any point you're frustrated because you're not able to get this stuff to work the way that you want, take it one step at a time, break it down. Start with the most basic stuff. And then once you are able to comfortably do just this, then we're going to add the stance, right? Then once you're able to do this sequence 5 to 10 times comfortably, then we're going to add this. And if you need to, if all of that is too much for you, you can break it down this way too. If you're running to, it's wherever the problem is at. If you notice that you're having a problem when you get here, oh man, I keep getting this too late. Or when I go into the stance, I can't get the spinning bird kick, then omit all of this stuff right here and just do this. Get used to doing just this. And if that's too much for you, if you find that the spinning bird kick is not coming out in time, like it's something like this is happening, and you're like, oh man, I'm not getting the spinning bird kick, then just practice doing the spinning bird kick. Once you're able to do this spinning bird kick 10 times in a row, which again, if you're just doing the spinning bird kick raw, you do have to charge it. Keep that in mind. You do have to charge it in this situation. But when you're doing this stuff, you don't have to actually charge it. But if you're having trouble doing the spinning bird kick, you pushing down, up, kick, just practice it by itself. And then once you break it down and you're able to fix all of those separate holes, eventually you will be able to do it all in one sequence like this. If you're trying to do this version and you find that, man, every time I try to do this, I don't get the OD version, it's probably something with you're not pushing both of the kick buttons at the same time. So practice doing that. Remember, any combination of kick buttons, it could be light plus heavy, it can be light plus medium, it could be medium plus heavy, whichever is easier for you to do with the least amount of stress is what you want to try to do. And then eventually, before you know it, you're going to be able to do stuff like this. All right? Break it down one step at a time. Don't try to force yourself to do the whole sequence at once. That's the same thing that I do in order to get these things. In Tekken, when trying to learn how to do something called an electric wind got this, which is very hard to do, I broke it down one step at a time. It's okay to do that. As you get better at doing it, one step at a time, eventually you will be able to put everything together. And that's not what I'm asking for. You will be able to put everything together until you can do cool stuff like this. Right? So that's the only heavy punch. Now, there are other heavy punish combos too that you can do. Stuff like this. Like this. Let me think of something else that you can do here. Like that. Whoops, I just messed that up. But we're not going to worry about all that stuff right now, right? Just so that you know what we're working towards, so that you can, we're working a little backwards. That way you can have something like, okay, that's the point that I want to try to get to with this character, right? That way you can see what's happening. But for right now, as a beginner to intermediate player, I want you to only worry about, for your heavy punish combo, this sequence, which again is heavy punch into stance. Once you're in the stance, medium kick into spinning bird kick, which is up, down plus the kick button. When you're doing it from the stance, you do not have to charge it. It will all come out without you having to hold down for 1 to 2 seconds, right? So that's what I want you to do every time you catch your opponent doing something super unsafe. I don't want you to worry about, oh, can I do it after I block this? Can I do it after I block? You want to do it after you block something that is like a very obvious, okay, he is wide open. Like if Ryu messes up with something like this and you block it. Obvious. If he messes up with this. Obvious. Right? If he messes up with something like this. Obvious. Very, very obvious stuff, and it's going to be more or less obvious depending on what characters that you fight. If we say that we're fighting another character, let's say it's the same thing if you're fighting who's another character where we can Guile. Let's say you're fighting Guile and he does something crazy like this. Obvious. Right? That's the only time I want you to worry about this. I don't want you to worry about using it when your opponent is doing specific pressure. Because when you're in the lower ranks, if you're fighting lower ranked players, they are going to do crazy stuff like that randomly. And if you're patient and you pay close enough attention, they're going to do it. And then I want you to get used to punishing. So this is the only heavy punish that I want you to worry about. So your bread and butter combos that I want you to focus on for right now and take very close note of this are going to be either any of these variations. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do this version. You don't have to do this version if that's too much going on for you. Just pick one. These are interchangeable. The only difference is that this hits people low. So it can be used to catch people that aren't watching their ankles. If they're blocking a lot but they're not crouching, you can do this. Right? But this is almost, all of these different variations are almost the same. So I want you to know how to do any of these variations right here. And remember what we spoke about hit confirming. Only do the lightning kicks if your opponent is being hit and you realize that they are being hit. Right. You want to be able to say, okay, he's being hit. Now I'm going to do a lightning kick. Like we did. If you need to rewind this video in order to see that, the hit confirming section, by all means, go ahead and do that. We got that one. This one, which is standing medium punch. Let's get Guile closer so we don't have to keep chasing him. Standing medium punch into crouching medium punch into heavy spinning bird. Like this. That's what it's going to look like all together. And then if your opponent really makes a giant mistake, we have a heavy punch into the stance medium. Heavy punch into the stance. While you're in the stance, medium kick into spinning bird kick. If you have more than 3 of the green drive gauge bar at the top, when you do this sequence, I want you to do something like this. If you feel comfortable with your awareness of what's going on, and you have the meter, I want you to do something like this. If you have 3 bars, I want you to do this. If you have 1 bar, obviously you can't do this one because you need 3 to do it, right? So if you have 1 bar, I want you to do this. So it's going to look like this. If you feel very comfortable, you can do this. If you don't feel comfortable with any of that, I just want you to do only this version. Okay, pay very close attention. And if you are under 3 bars, do not do the OD version, just do this version. Get used to doing that stuff in these situations, and I promise you they will help you as you continue to grow, because we're building very good habits here. And as we get better, we're going to take things to the next level, to more intermediate and advanced stuff, right? But those are the 3 hit confirm combos that I want you to worry about. And like I said, you can segue into that off of stuff like this. So if you're wondering, how do I get close to my opponent to do this, or to do this, you can drive rush cancel off of something like this. And remember, combine the knowledge of hit confirming that we did before. That way you can tell if your opponent is being hit. You might need to practice it. See? You see how we didn't do the spinning bird kick there because I was able to tell Guile is blocking. Yeah, into the corner so we don't have to keep chasing Guile there. You notice very closely how I'm able to hit confirm that Guile is being hit. See? And that's how we want to handle using this right here. So this is to help you get, if you're back here and you're more of an aggressive or poke player, and you're trying to get to your opponent, this move or this move into a drive cancel. Again, like we discussed earlier, you drive cancel Not every move is drive cancelable, but if it is, you double tap forward after they block the move or they get hit by it, doesn't matter. Right? And then you double tap forward. Or you push the left trigger if you have the default controls on pad. Unfortunately, I don't know what it would be on leatherless, but it's technically both medium attacks. So it's a medium punch and medium kick. You can technically do it by pressing medium punch and medium kick together too if you want to, but I think that's probably a little bit hard. It's probably just easier to bind this to a specific button. Or if you have your controller set up a specific way, if you don't like doing this off the left trigger, you can bind it to something else, depending on how you have your controller set up. Now, I'm not going to go over setting up control schemes here, but if you need more information on that, I'm sure there are guides online, and I can also, if requested, make a guide on how to set up your controller to suit you best. But you can set the shortcut, instead of it being the left trigger, you can set it to something else. You can set it to be the right trigger if you really want to, right? I wouldn't recommend that because that's your heavy kick button, but you can set your controls to be however the heck you want them to be, right? But we're not going to go too much into that here. But that's how you do a drive rush cancel, and it doesn't matter if they block or get hit. It doesn't. See? And you're going to do this bread and butter sequence right here. Or you can do this. Whichever is easier for you. You want to try to get used to doing both of those things though. So that's pretty much all the there's one more bread and butter thing that I forgot to mention. There's this one as well. This one too. You can also do that from here. But the main ones I want you to focus on, this one, not so important. The main reason somebody would do this is for very specific setups, or to do your super like so, because it puts them in a juggle state so you can get more damage. But if that's too much for you, the ones that I really want you to focus on are this, and if they do something crazy, this. Right. Those are the big three most important ones that you want to focus on. And then you can segue into those from something like this. Right. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be that's going to be it for the beginner section of the combo section of the beginner's guide. And we went over everything. We went over anti-airs and stopping people from jumping. We went over her normals and how to use them. We went over some basics of Street Fighter 6 in general. And yeah, hopefully all that information is useful. I know I didn't go too much into jumping, but just trust me, don't let people jump. Use your anti-airs if you can. If it's hard, I will come out with. I have material showing how to train this, but if it's too intense, I can make something that's a little bit more beginner friendly if necessary. But you want to keep people from jumping. That's just as, if not more important than all of this combo stuff that we mentioned here. Because if you can keep people from jumping, this is going to be important at any level of play, from early on all the way to the pro levels. You don't let people jump. So you do want to anti-air them. But other than all of that stuff, that's pretty much going to be it for the beginner's guide. Hopefully this was helpful for those that requested it. If you have any questions or any specific inquiries, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, or you can leave a post on the Chun Li subreddit. I check the Chun Li subreddit quite frequently. Even if you address me directly, like if you say like a question for Omega or something like that, I promise you I will see it. As long as Reddit is working properly, I'm going to see that. Or you can just leave a comment in the comment section below. If you have any further input, or if there's something that you think I missed, if you're more intermediate or advanced player, feel free to leave that as well. Whether in Chun Li subreddit or in the comment section, we can have a discussion. Like the video if you like it, subscribe if you're willing. This is going to be Sage Armageddon signing out. I hope you all have a great day.